Welcome back to the Skyriver Cantina with Dan and Zane. We're talking right now about fuel and space. He's talking about hyperdrives, and it doesn't really need a whole bunch of fuel because it's, I'm guessing, a computer, so it doesn't need fuel for hyperspace.
It actually does run on fuel. I mean, I can actually pull up the video of the Millennium Falcon video I just watched this week, which, by the way, has nothing to actually do with the conversation we were having. We were having a whole different conversation.
Well,
we got into the fuel thing, and I just so happened to have watched a deal on the Millennium Falcon. But the thing about it is he's like, it takes up fuel consumption to go in hyperspace. And so they don't hyperspace all the time. But, as we know, everybody in Star Wars hits that hyperspace button like it's crack. Okay? They fly through hyperspace all the time. They plot their routes, and most of the times they have enough fuel that they're going to be able to cross the entire galaxy on a tank of fuel.
The Empire doesn't hyperspace all the time. Sometimes they just cruising.
When they go from system to system, they hyperspace.
Yeah, when they need to.
It takes way too long not to, and if you get stuck out in the middle of the route somewhere, you gotta readjust your navigomputer and everything for that to be able.
Yeah, but they have way more resources to be doing all that. Instead of the rebels, they don't have that many resources to be doing all that hyperspace and.
Fuel wasn't a hard thing for them to come by.
What is
fuel? And when it was, do you know what they did? They went out and hit Imperial convoys and stole the fuel.
Yeah, but sometimes that doesn't always work.
And there was an awful lot of missions with Rogue Squadron, Rogue Squadron, where they went into hyperspace a lot. They'd hyperspace from one place to one place to one place, and they'd do several missions and things like that, and take on the Empire and hit and run tactics, where they fly in on hyperspace, blast everything to shit, take what they can, and fly back out. They ran on hyperspace a lot.
That's if they're on a mission, though, because they're on mission, so they're going to have that resource go into that ship for the mission. But if it's like a regular ship, they're not going to have all that resource to be moving.
Well, I'm going to say this, man, like, Han had a run of bad luck all the time, but he never had to worry about being able to put fuel in the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, but his hyperdrive
runs off of fuel.
Yeah, but that always fucked up during the movies.
Yes, but because his hyperdrive was a very special hyperdrive. His hyperdrive originally would have been, I think, a ×1 or a ×2 hyperdrive. And then it was nice and refined, and it was a ×1 hyperdrive, which is your standard best hyperdrive in the system. So that's like taking your...
How many standards are there?
That's like taking your straight from the factory Lamborghini. Right? Just go straight from the factory Lamborghini. It's all badass. Okay? Super fast, does what it's supposed to, right? Okay, then you got like a straight from the factory Dodge Charger, Ford Mustang, something like that. It's not as fast as a Lamborghini. They're fast cars, but they're not as fast as a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So that's like a ×2. And then let's go to your regular Joe Schmo frickin' sedan or van or truck or whatever. That's like your ×3. They're going to get to about 120. They might be able to get faster, but that's about what they got.
So then
it take like a lot, So, but it was just going off of time. It's got ×1, ×2, and ×3. The lower the number you have, the faster your hyperdrive is.
Okay.
Okay, so a ×3 means if it takes you 1 day to get to a location with a ×1 hyperdrive, on a ×3 hyperdrive, it's going to take you 3 days to get to that location. So, almost all the hyperdrives in the system are 1s, 2s, or 3s. There are a very few that are a hyperdrive, which is half the time it takes you to get there. So if it takes you 1 day to get there, it takes you 12 hours instead. Which is why the Millennium Falcon is the fastest ship out of all the ships you've seen. It's got a 0.5. How he got the 0.5 is in the Han Solo Adventures. He specifically actually went looking for the man that aftermarkets the hyperdrives. You see, the thing is while the hyperdrive is super fast, it's also a persnickety bitch. And is very prone to acting up because it has to be modified so much to be able to get it past that ×1 down to a 0.5. The guy goes in and and it has to be kept in tune constantly or she fucking spazzes out.
Don't the Empire have a Type 5?
A 0.5 hyperdrive. No, like standard people, like, no, you have to go to, like, you gotta go find the guy, and then you gotta get him convinced to make the hyperdrive for you. Like, the Empire don't care about that crap, because they don't, why do we need a ×5 hyperdrive, man? They don't really care about that. They care more about subjugating the people instead of speed. A smuggler cares about speed. He wants to get there faster than everybody else gets there because then, hey, we want this guy to get it there because he'll get it there in half the time that the other ones get it there, so you get more business. That's why Han wanted a faster one, and he specifically actually went in the Han Solo Adventures looking for a guy to have the hyperdrive redone. And he ended up doing what needed to be done and getting the guy to, because the guy wasn't going to do it, but then he ended up doing things and convincing the guy that his reward should be that, and by the end of it, he didn't even really try to push the guy for it. The guy just decided that he was going to do it, and he did it. And he upgraded the hyperdrive, but it's completely aftermarketed, and as I'm going to go like this, rednecked as fuck. So not pretty redneck. We're talking rednecked as fuck. Like we duct tape, like you want a jack to lift your car while you're driving down the fucking road, like the Red Green show.
Okay? Have you seen the ship?
Alright. Well, actually, Han purposely leaves the Millennium Falcon looking like that.
Oh yeah, so they can hide in like junk and...
Well, that, but also because it looks like a rundown freighter.
Yeah.
Okay? So when somebody looks at it, oh, this is some poor fucking... That's what they see. Okay? It's a camouflage. It hides the fact that it's one of the most badass ships in the entire galaxy. They see a rusty old fucking freighter, and it's not even really that rusty. It's really not. And on top of it, Han has tried multiple times to actually paint over some of the rust, like to get rid of some of the rust, and the rust comes back. Because there has been times in the books where he was talking about having to repaint over the fucking rust again in that spot because the rust is back. Like, he wants it to be somewhat looking like that, but not too much. He's actually tried to maintain on the hull and everything. And on top of it, he actually slapped on aftermarket hull plating onto the ship to make it stronger and be able to take more damage.
Yeah, but that ship is still a mess. Even if it's a good ship, it's still not well kept.
Okay, well, first off, the Millennium Falcon has been a spaz since day one. Alright? It's day of creation. It comes on the assembly line, right, and it's getting done, and they're going to put the fuel in. They're fueling it up, which is a highly explosive fuel and everything. They're just fueling it up for sublight, not for hyperdrive. Because there's two different fuels, two different tanks, two totally different engines. Okay? And they're filling it up. When they're filling it up, either the guy hits the button or the timer, something doesn't time right. And it's supposed to get filled up, and then it's supposed to start its test. It's automated test flights that it gets programmed, yeah. Okay? It ignites and does its fucking tests when it's not supposed to. Or when it was supposed to, but other crap. I cannot quite remember. It's been so long since I read the Millennium Falcon, the story, and I want to get the book again, and I just haven't had a chance to. But it literally wrecked the entire assembly line from that point on. Just wrecked it. And put the company, I can't remember the name of it. The name of the company right now. But put the company that made the YT series of freighters, because there's actually a whole series of them with different numbers.
Yeah.
And the YT 1300 was the one that was the Millennium Falcon. It put that entire assembly line on repair work was going to be like a minimum, or cleanup was like going to be like 6 months, and repair work and everything. It put the damn assembly line behind schedule by like 1.5 to 2 years. That's how much it wrecked it. And it didn't get much damage. It did get some damage and everything, and then they patched it up and they sent it on its way. And it actually ended up in the hands of the Republic at one point, before it was all said and done. It was actually supposed to be used by the Rebel Alliance as a bomb. Before Han got it, before Lando got it, somebody else had it, and that person's the one that named it the Millennium Falcon, because it's faster than a Bat Falcon and will last all the sands of time, will last a millennium. So that's why he called it the Millennium Falcon. The guy that was in the Rebel Alliance back before it ever got to Lando that had it, and they were going to make a bomb out of it and blow it up, and he couldn't see that done to that ship. He loved the ship. So he actually did something else. But the bomb still went off for the Rebel Alliance, but the Millennium Falcon wasn't destroyed. And then eventually Lando got it, and he cleaned it all up and had it looking like pretty, and had a extra escape pod to it and all that crap. And Han saw it and fell in love instantly, and he needed to figure out how he was going to get it. He wanted to get it from Lando, never thought he probably would. Then he won it in the card game, and he actually wanted to ship on the lot, and he told him he wanted the Millennium Falcon. And then Han put the quad lasers on it, put the extra armor on it, and let it kind of get the run-downish outside look. Took the escape pod off and put the 4 concussion missile launcher in it. But the Millennium Falcon also was owned by a big-time crime boss at some time in its past, right? Because what happened is, during the time it was owned by the Republic, they flew off of Coruscant, and they were trying to get the hyperdrive to activate, and it wouldn't activate, because there were just, I think one reason is, the Millennium Falcon has always been the fastest ship. So, it's kind of sort of always had modifications done to it, and it's always been a little bit faster than a times 1 hyperdrive. But it wasn't until Han took it to the guy that became a full 0.5 past. And it spazzed out on him, and the whole ship shut down on him. The whole entire ship freaking shut down on him. And they couldn't get the damn thing to turn on. So this was worse than like a hyperdrive incident, where the hyperdrive just don't want to work.
And it had the 0.5 in it?
No. And the whole damn ship spazzed out. It also had, and so the whole ship shut down. I think because it was in the battle, I think they might have got shot or something when they were taking off, and it caused there to be some problems, and the whole freaking ship shut down. And so they were trying to get it kicked back on, and they couldn't get it kicked back on, and they got this freaking dreadnought ship coming at them, and they can't get, and then they're like, fine, they jumped in the escape pods. When they jumped in the escape pods and hit the launch for the escape pods, the Millennium Falcon kicked back on to life and did an automatic maneuver on its own anti-collision course thing and rotated and ended up firing the escape pods directly into the side of the dreadnought and one guy ended up surviving, but the Millennium Falcon got smashed to shit on that Dreadnought's hull.
You think that ship has an AI system?
Well, they all have a sort of an AI.
Well, I know
system
there's different levels for the AIs that they give robots.
Yeah, it has its Navicomputer and has some AI systems in it for certain things like a collision course, like I was telling you about dropping out of hyperspace because of a gravity well, or not allowing the hyperdrive to kick in because of a gravity well, things like that. It has its little computer.
Yeah.
Well, then the crime boss got a hold of the Millennium Falcon. This guy was like, well, I found this ship and we're going to make it better. So this guy takes this busted ship, cleans it all up, gets it repaired, puts the mandibles on it. He's the one that installs the lounge and the holo table into the spaceship and everything, because there's going to be this crime lord's personal yacht.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's the one. I don't remember if Han installed the secret compartments or not, but the secret compartments were either installed underneath the ones in the floor.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It was either installed with the crime lord or Han did. I can't remember which one. But the crime boss had it, and the crime boss put a laser cannon. The dude working on it put a laser cannon on it, and he put in a second computer designed to run the laser cannons that he had on it. So the pilots could use the laser cannons and set things up from the cockpit and all that. It required a second computer. So now the Millennium Falcon's got two brains that don't always get along with each other.
Oh.
The original one and the other one. So it's got two different AI brains for stuff that don't always get along. And so now, however much it might have been a spaz in the past from damage and everything else, I mean, just like an old car, like it gets its quirk. The older it gets and the more damage and things done to it, the more quirkier it gets.
Yeah.
Right? This is a freaking spaceship that's got so many different things in it, got so many different technology things into it, and now they went and put a starfighter freaking brain into it along with the original one and try to make them two get along.
Yeah,
the Millennium Falcon is a complete and utter spasastic, like schizophrenic bitch. Well, Han gets her, puts the quad guns on her, and then he gets her hyperdrive even amped up that it's rednecked as fuck. And so the Millennium Falcon is a flying clusterfuck of when's it gonna break down. But when the Millennium Falcon ain't breaking down and she's holding together like Han says she will, and she's on point like she's supposed to, it's the best freaking ship in Star Wars. She'll put out damage, because them quad guns actually put out fucking damage. Those are heavy hitting. Those are military grade. Those are heavy hitting guns. And he's got a concussion missile launcher in it. So I mean, he's putting out better than any standard TIE fighter, and almost as good as a X-wing and a freighter. And it's as fast as most starfighters. Not necessarily some of the more advanced ones, but I mean, it can keep up and fight alongside of a bunch of the starfighters without too much problem. And when the hyperdrive works, he outruns everybody. He's going to get there in half the time it's going to take them, and then I can replot a course and jump again to some other location. I got 12 hours before they get here, so I can figure something out and I can disappear again. He can get away. But it does run off of, back around to the beginning, it runs off of two different types of fuel. All of them do. Because you have your standard fuel for your sublight, and then you have a fuel for your hyperdrive. And basically what it is it's not actually a liquid fuel, it's a solid fuel. Both of them are.
Well, fuel is fuel, no matter what.
Yeah, but it's a solid. It's
like a rock?
Like pebble. Okay, so think of
okay.
Think of like your grills that have or smokers that have the pebble, the little wood chip or wood pellet feeder.
Yeah.
Okay, so think of it like that. It's pellets, and it's actually.
Sorry, guys. I got a correction here. I got to insert. It was the AT-AT Walker that had the pellets like fuel. In actuality, the Millennium Falcon ran off of a metal fuel. It was a metal liquid fuel, and the hyperdrive ran off of hypermatter. So just a little interjection there on the actual fuels. All right, let's get back to it.
See, like a combustible metal that what happens is it goes from the fuel tank into a compressor unit that actually compresses and breaks it down and ignites it to where it can go out and run through the engine as fuel and be ignited and expelled out the back end of the ship to fly. Then the hyperdrive, it didn't go too much into it, but that one's fuel is different, but it also gets broken down and ran through the hyperdrive, and then that activates and runs out. And they actually said that the actual term for it, it's a specific fuel that's different, and they named it some hyper thing or something, hyperdrive had, so it had to be like some kind of a hyper thing, whatever, like the name was. I mean, I could pull up the video and we could watch it, but so with that, the fuel tanks aren't very big. The fuel is compressed. It doesn't take much of that fuel to actually be able to run the ship, because what happens is it goes into a secondary thing that actually breaks it down and turns it into the fuel that can actually be used and ignited and burned. So in that process, it's like taking the never-ending gobstopper. Like, you throw it in your mouth as much as you want, the candy never disappears. Well, it's the same kind of concept. Yeah, they have to refuel, but it actually doesn't take them as much fuel as what a lot of people think it does to fly through space. Because we're talking about Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, all that. To do the things that we want to imagine in those, you either have to have a fuel tank the size of a planet, because, I mean, our vehicles are not very efficient. So you got to have a big fuel tank to be able to carry shitloads of fuel to be able to do that. Or you have to have a high enough advanced engine system to be able to run on a very small amount of fuel, so that you actually get a greater distance off of the fuel than what you have. That's the two options that you have.
I would have thought they would be mining the planets for the fuel that they would need. That's why
they do mine planets for it and everything.
That's why they have like more power of a stronghold than the rebellion does.
They do mine for fuel and everything like that. That happens. But, like, when the Rebel Alliance would be getting low on fuel, they would, if they really needed it that bad and they couldn't get a hold of fuel, what would they do? They'd send out the squadrons to go and attack a Imperial fuel station or a fuel convoy and steal fuel. That's what they would do. And they'd get more fuel. If it got low. That's what the Rebel Alliance would have done.
Just steal fuel, that's it?
I mean, well, yeah, they attack military targets and all the other shit.
They don't get
too.
their own fuel, they just
No, they buy it and everything else too. But if, let's say that they can't, the people they buy it from can't supply it at the time because of whatever reason, and fuel's getting short for some reason, they would have just sent out, like, Rogue Squadron to hit a fuel fucking depot that was ran by the Empire, cause chaos for the Empire, and steal the fuel they need to continue their war against the Empire, and they would have stole the Empire's fuel. They wouldn't have stole the civilians' fuel. They would have stole the fuel that the Empire had planned on purchasing and taking. That's what they would have took. So, I mean, there was even one of the games, like Rogue Squadron on like 64 or something, where there was something where you went after fuel tanks and you wanted to blow up the Empire's tanks and leave yours alone. Some gas fuel for something that they needed. But, I mean, that's the two options you have. You either have a ship that's got to have a ginormously ridiculous fuel tank to be able to go the distance, which is not practical for what a lot of people want in a star setting. They want to see movement, they want to see action, they want to see that. So then we have to get to the technology that we have a hyper-efficient engine and a hyper-efficient hyperdrive that we can have a normal-sized fuel tank in a ship, or even a smaller than normal-sized fuel tank in a ship, and have it full of the fuel we need, and it can fly from point A to point B several times before it has to actually refuel, because it's that efficient. That's, I mean, same concept with like the whole reason why they made like a Toyota Prius. You get what I'm saying? Is they wanted something that would be more fuel efficient kind of vehicle. Well, I mean, the same concept goes with Star Wars and all the other ones, is they will make, the writers of it will make it where they're past that point in the technological phase, that they've made it to the point where these tanks are this way, and it doesn't burn as much fuel as everybody would think it would, because science. They figured it out to make it work. So can we get off of that one and you lecture me about Grey Jedi? Because I don't
have a whole lot about Grey Jedi. I did like it when I was a kid and kind of just grew up with the idea of it, but there's not a whole lot about it on anything. They say Qui-Gon Jinn was kind of in the side of Grey Jedi because he did defy the Order in some capacity for not his self, but for other people benefit. And Revan, he wasn't technically a Grey Jedi. He was a Jedi, and then he got mind tricked into being a Sith, and then became a Sith. Found out he was being mind tricked, and then got the Force mind trick, whatever out of his head. He still was Sith after the transition, and I think sometime after that he became a Jedi and died for Darth Revan.
How I remember it is they were fighting the Mandalorians, and it was beginning to be a very nasty fight, and him and a squad of guys kind of sort of went Sith while they were fighting it, because they got angry and everything like that.
They did have the Revanist, which was the squad that Revan kind of made, per se. It kind of just became a thing when the Mandalorian War was happening. But, so they went to the council and for help, and they said, no, we're not a part of this war, we're not doing this. Which also, I don't like the Jedi Council on a lot of that shit, because they don't help out with anything. They just kind of sit there, do their own thing. But that's also the Jedi. But,
yeah, we can talk about the Jedi philosophy kind of thing on that later.
Yeah, I just don't like it. That's why I'm kind of in the middle of Grey Jedi. I like them more. Because they kind of do have the sense of, using the dark and the light side of the Force. Like, Mace Windu kind of would have been a great Jedi, maybe, but he was more Jedi than anything. But he was violent, like Sith. He did create an art form. I forgot what like Vapos or something. It was a lightsaber form that was more aggressive, that was banished from the Jedi Council because it was too aggressive. But he decided to bring it back and use it. They said he could, and only a few other Jedi could use it. I think only 2 used it. One broke down from the power that it uses because you need to have like some dark side energy to use it because it's so fast, and there was another Jedi. He used it and then became a full Sith after that because he couldn't control the power of wielding the saber style.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Darth Revan, he has the mask on because of he found it during like a Purge the War. The helmet was there. He picked it up. Him and the Revanist that he was with seen a Force battle that was happening and wiped out like the whole planet. Like the Mandalorians wiped out a whole planet of civilians. And this one Mandalorian was standing up to the other Mandalorians saying this isn't right. And they just didn't care. So he said he will take up this, he will take up her duties to eradicate the Mandalorians.
Or at least to stop them from doing what they were doing.
He didn't like the Mandalorians all too much.
No, because the Mandalorians, at one point, they're a warrior type culture kind of thing, and then on top of it, they were doing they were superior thing, so, I mean, they were kind of sort of like a pre-Empire-ish kind of thing. Yeah,
they were very dominant.
So, they'd come in and fucking annihilate.
Well,
that's what they were. They weren't nice. They were not nice.
No, they had many wars. And,
and many wars amongst themselves, too.
And Darth Revan, he actually stopped the wars. He actually killed the leader of the Mandalorian, which was, not his, the Mandalorian, the head Mandalorian, wasn't his fault to start the war, but he was manipulated by a Sith. So, Revan went to the Sith, and that's how he became manipulated into being also a Sith. Which, yeah.
I didn't get to read much on it, but I had a buddy that read a bunch about it, and he told me things about it, and...
He was mostly Sith, but he did lean to the light side of the Force quite a bit.
Well, and then what he told me is that Revan had started off, him and a squad of Jedi went to fight the Mandalorians, and basically it got really bad because the Mandalorians were fighting real dirty and everything, and I mean, so they started to fight real dirty, and they started to do dark side things, and like the whole squad had basically turned Sith.
Yeah, he had a friend, Darth Malak. I'll send you a picture of him, too.
Malak. I do believe he's the guy that I was talking about previously.
He was, with Revan for, like, a long time, like, even when they were Jedi training as Padawans. Malak was there, and Malak was there. They were both mind-tricked into being Sith. And they both came to and realized that they were being mind-tricked and kind of watched that from their minds. Still were Sith, because they believed the Sith could do more than the Jedi could, because, I don't know, the Sith
the Sith don't have the Sith don't have the thing to stop them. You know, because they don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to
accept. They don't have to accept that. Well, is it moral or not? It doesn't matter if it's moral or not. This guy needs to die regardless for the betterment of the entire galaxy. Whether it's moral if he dies or doesn't, it doesn't matter. He's going to die. Where the Jedi go, well, it's not moral that we kill him. It should be decided in a court or whatever.
Yeah, they're like usually like monks, just preserving their knowledge and
they didn't have that limit. The Sith don't have that limitation.
Yeah, but that's why Revan was...
At some point, because he told me at some point, Revan, what he did is there was something that happened and he ended up getting injured. And, like, forgetting his memories as a Sith. And so when he came to, he didn't remember any of that stuff. And so he was just a Jedi again.
Yeah, he got into a fight with Malik. I forgot what the fight was about, but Revan cut off Malik's jaw, so he couldn't talk again because he was speaking out of turn. So that's he has I'm gonna send you a picture. Probably gonna see it on the YouTube side, but he has a metal casing around where his jaw should be. He can't talk again. But a couple years after that, because the apprentice kills the master and becomes the master. How the Sith does it, the rule of two.
Yep.
But Malik found an opportune time during a space war. I forgot which one, but he was on one of the burning down ships trying to kill a Jedi, and Malik told his ship that he was on to fire at the burning ship, which killed Revan. Well, supposedly in the comics, that's where it ends. Or in the game, I'm not sure. But after that, we find out that Revan was saved by the Jedi that he was trying to kill. And he did lose his memory. But he was always torn about it. Oh, can you hand me one? He was always torn about, because he knew the kind of the life that he had before he woke up, He knew that he lost his memory, but he doesn't know the extent of the life that he had. And that kind of broke him into an inner fit or whatnot. At some point, he did regain his memory about being Sith. I'm not sure if he continued to be Sith after that.
I don't know.
No, yeah, I think he was light side. No, he was dark side, but he had a light side ghost. And the dark side wanted something. I forgot what he wanted, but he wanted something. That's why he was alive. But after he got it, he died, and the light side took over. And yeah, it's a whole story. It's a deep story. If you guys want to check it out, go check it out. That's bizarre. Yeah, but Great Jedi, they're kind of in the middle, in between the light and dark. Like, Plo Koon, he used Force Judgment, which is equivalent to Force Lightning, but not as powerful. Which is kind of like Dark Side. Like, Dark Side Force powers is more aggressive. Like, as if Jedi would be doing it, they would do it as, like, a defense mechanism, or trying to maneuver it and not to hurt the other person. But the Sith, they just want to hurt the other person. The Grey, they kind of have the medium ground of what's right, what's the balance of the Force, because we need the light and the dark. That's what the balance is. Actually, I have a thing about it, actually, for their sense of belief. The Jedi believe that there is no emotion, there is peace, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. Now the Sith believe peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. Now the Grey Jedi kind of goes in between the both, saying that there is no light without the dark. Through passion, I gain focus. Through knowledge, I gain power. Through serenity, I gain strength. Through victory, I gain harmony. There is only the Force. Now that's kind of why I believe in the Force setting, because there has to be a balance of the Force. It can't just be all dark and there can't be all light.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of why there was supposed to be the chosen one anyway, and bringing balance to the Force.
And he kind of did, because he did eliminate a lot of the Jedi. And there was only 2 Sith, which kind of got balanced until he killed the Sith and he died too, which just made Jedi.
Well, there were still Sith-like. There were still Sith-like people.
Yeah, there's still gonna be beings gonna be growing
and more, and eventually another Sith returned.
Yeah.
And made a whole bunch of more Sith instead of following the rule of 2.
And Darth Revan, he actually started the rule of 2 because he figured that
I thought that was Bane.
Bane took it from Revan, because Bane, he found a holocron that Revan made talking about the rule of 2 and how it's that's not wise to have 2 people under you. So then you have 2 people killing that one master, and then those 2 people won't be as powerful as that one master would be. So the rule of 2 would be the master would be powerful and the apprentice would become more powerful than the master, which would kill him, making him the master again. Or making him
he would take an apprentice.
Yeah.
And then that one would learn from him.
Yeah, it would be a whole cycle.
And then when that one got more powerful than the master, he would then kill the master and take over. And so that way the Sith would grow stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger with each generation.
Now, if a master had 2 apprentices, both apprentices could come at the master and kill the master without the apprentices gaining the knowledge to be masters themselves, which would kind of break the cycle of them being higher power.
And now there's two that aren't as strong as they could have been, that may decide that they gotta duke it out, because one of them is either going to be the master and the other one's going to be the apprentice.
Yeah, that's what.
And they're
Revan
both,
was, kind of scared about. Malik
and so then they fight, and let's say one of them wins, or how about that it's a draw? They both die.
Yeah.
And then there is no more Sith.
Yeah, there's always that possibility.
So having one master and one apprentice means that the apprentice always ends up eventually becoming stronger than the master to take over and rule. Which, I guess...
Well, the Jedi, they don't really do that. They have masters and they can have multiple apprentices.
Yeah, because
they don't have that rule, because they are trying to be bigger or better than their masters. They're just trying to be more mindful, and
they're just trying to better themselves.
Yeah, it's more about
everybody's contribute, how they connect to the Force, how they learn the Force, how they meditate with the Force. Every single one of the masters has a slightly different way of doing it that apprentices should learn. Like in the Clone Wars with Ahsoka, she's very much kind of like how Anakin is. She's brash, fast, all that, right? Like how he used to be.
Yeah, and they have to learn how to control
And then she got stuck with the old master. And she's always, in the whole episode, she's always like running, chasing, hurry, 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 to get to chase down the chick that had her lightsaber, right? And he is old and slow, and he still gets there pretty much at exactly the same time as she does, or before her, by just using some wisdom. That this person has the lightsaber. She's probably going to try to go to this place, and so he goes and he gets himself on a transport that goes through Coruscant from point A to point B, and he gets there at about the same time as all the running and jumping and everything else that they did to get to that location.
Yeah,
you know, he just used the wisdom to just go and take a moment to think about it.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that episode.
Yeah, he did everything.
That was in the library?
Yep.
Yeah.
And she got stuck with him because for some reason. And she lost her lightsaber, and he's the only one, and his methods of doing things is we're going to get there when we get there, and when we get there, things will be as they should be. And she's very strong-headed that ain't gonna work. They're gonna get away, and so she's chasing after the chick that stole her lightsaber, which to try to get it back. And he's doing the same thing, but he's basically using his wisdom that this transport's going to go from here to here. It's going to basically, he's like, it'll get there by the time that they do all that stuff.
Yeah, Jedi, they use their mind, and Sith, they use their body. I would kind of take out of that, because Jedi, they usually meditate a lot more. They preserve knowledge, and they give away knowledge. The Sith, they usually dominate.
He was just also kind of sort of just using that old-timer wisdom of, as well, like not even like the Force with that one. He was teaching her patience.
Oh yeah, you need patience.
And there are times when action is necessary. But you should save those times for when those times need to be. You don't need to be running through the city, jumping across everything and chasing down and doing all this crazy stuff to chase this person down. Take a moment. The person has your lightsaber. The person has to go to a certain place to be able to get gone. We know who the person is, so we know basically where the places they're going to have to be. So we're just going to go right there to that. So that way, by the time they get there, we're already there.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka is a great Jedi now in the series. Because she walked away from the Order.
Well, there wasn't any Order left, really.
Well, no, she walked away before it fell. She walked away before Episode 3 happened. Oh, well, actually, we can talk about smuggling, because I have a little bit about spice.
Okay.
Because you said that there was one spice, and I was very interested about drugs in space, and I said there has to be more.
Well, I just...
and there is.
Well, yeah, there's more types of drugs, but as far as I remember from reading what I read, spice referred to a specific kind.
Yeah, I just thought
drug.
It was one type of spice, which, the most common spice... Well, let me just read this whole thing. Spices were usually mined on Kessel, Ryloth, and Naboo. Spices like Ril could be found on Ryloth. The Sensenna spice, widely found throughout the galaxy, which is the spice that you're kind of referring to. It's kind of like the orangish spice.
I don't remember the color of it. I just remember that the Hutts had a project, and Han was flying freighter for the Hutts, and that was on like Galatia or something. and they had a deal where they had people mining spice. And eventually the Rebel Alliance decided that they were going to hit that, and Han got a whole bunch of people to, a whole bunch of smugglers to join in because they needed the best pilots, and smugglers were the best pilots because they could get in and out of all kinds of bad conditions, and they needed them to be able to get into the planet because of the atmospheric conditions and storms and stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of in the movie.
And so they got into the planet and robbed the huts of their spice stuff, and everybody was supposed to get a cut, and then they get in. His ex-girlfriend, Bria, is the one that got Han convinced into doing the deal, and Han got everybody else convinced into doing it. She gets an order from the rebels saying that they're going to take all of it and nobody's getting anything.
Oh, you said Han Solo had a wife, which is kind of false.
No, he had an ex-girlfriend.
Well, I think in a thing you said he had a wife, but in a comic it was kind of he had a wife, but they staged it for a heist that they were doing to be married.
I don't remember him saying that he had a wife. I mean, he does eventually have a wife.
Well, I think it was called like Rhea or something. It could be the same person that you're referring to.
Bria was his girlfriend.
Was that before or after Leia?
Before.
Yeah, this was before too.
Yeah, he had a girlfriend named Bria, and then they ended up separating. She left him a love note and disappeared on him. And she went to the Rebel Alliance, and he went off to be, I do believe that's when he went off to be an Imperial pilot. And then the next time you see him is after he's had his stuff stripped from him from the Empire because he saved Chewie. And then...
I think we're talking about two different people. Han Solo had hell of a lifetime, huh? Probably. He was a smuggler going through galaxies and shit.
Oh yeah, he went all kinds of places. He I don't know if he did much in the unknown regions, but he ran around in the Empire, in the known galaxy.
Yeah.
Until shit got real hot. He had some heat on him. And so he went to the corporate sector. And that's the Han Solo Adventures, is when he goes to the corporate sector, which is a separate thing, and they are not underneath the authority of the Empire, really, at all, and they're kind of their own thing. And in 3 books, he made that hot. And he came back. And then he got into a run-in with the Empire when he was running spice for Jabba. And that's when things went bad for him, and then he ran the job for Luke and...
It got bad, and then it kind of got worse, and then kind of got a little worse, and then it got a little bit good again.
But he was running one of the spices, I guess. I thought that the way it made it sound in the books was that was what spice was.
Oh, we have different quotation spices here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if we wanted to just say use a general, we do. Technically, we do. We just don't call it spice. We call it drugs.
Yeah.
You know, so their general term for drugs is spice, and then we have our names that we name each drug: heroin, meth, cocaine, marijuana. You know.
Yeah, and they got real and Santana
and if you actually
Balo mushrooms.
Yeah, and if you actually go and read on each one of those things, like what it would do to somebody, and it mimics one of our types of drugs that we have.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know about this. Jedi Knight of Rael Averroth occasionally use death sticks, which I thought death sticks were like cigarettes, which it's not. Cigarettes is tobacco in Star Wars.
Is what?
Tobacco. Like T, colon thing, and then BAC.
Tobacco, basically.
Yeah. That's tobacco.
But no, death sticks, you smoke them, but they're kind of I'm trying to remember. They're kind of like
well, it says here, death sticks were made from a bala mushroom found on Balsalar.
Yeah, but the effect is kind of like...
So it's a mushroom.
It's kind of like getting high on weed and eating mushrooms.
Okay. So
and
it's
eating shrooms.
Like a fungus type thing?
So, well, I mean, you smoke the death stick.
Oh, so you... Okay.
I mean, you do smoke the death stick or whatever, but, like, the high that it gives you is like if you smoked weed and ate mushrooms.
Oh, so it's like DMT.
I don't know. I'm just going off of what people have told me with weed and what people have told me with mushrooms. I haven't done either one of them, so...
Oh, and Marcan is a thing for cannabis in Star Wars.
Oh, so they got weed.
Yeah, which is on Mandalore, Mantel, and Alderaan.
So basically, we started off on fuel for ships, and we ended off on drugs.
How the world works, I guess. Thank you for listening to episode 5 of the podcast with Dan and Zane. Do you have anything you would like to say?
Check out the YouTube video. I will have it ready by the weekend.
Yeah.
We'll have some pictures and everything on it. It is also Skyriver Cantina on YouTube. So come and check it out.
Yep, we're also on Spotify if you don't know. We're on Spotify and YouTube. Check us out on both if you would like. And check you back next week. Thank you guys.